Hello, fellow rebel capitalists. Hope you're well. Wanted to expand on the last video we did regarding the central planners, the global elite, trying to move towards a more authoritarian approach, not just with personal liberty and freedom, but also with the economy. And I believe they're going to try to take control over the means of production to the best of their ability. I don't think they're going to call it communism. That's not a real good PR move. I think they're going to try to call it this partnership between the public and the private sector, which is basically their version of corporatism. And the corporations, the huge mega corporations that will gain monopoly power, not as a result of the free market, but as a result of the government intruding on free market capitalism, in the government intervening in ways to give the power and the control of these corporations. You say, well, George, how on earth are they going to do that? That sounds like tinfoil hat stuff. Yeah, okay. Let's look at 2020. What happened back then? Did Amazon go bust in 2020? No. Look at corporate profits. They're at all-time highs. It's funny what happens when you have hundreds of thousands of small businesses go bust, and all of that demand now goes towards the mega corporations. Is it any surprise that the mega corporations' profits go up? Shocker, right? Is that a result of free market capitalism, or is that a result of government intrusion and intervention distorting the economy? Obviously, it's a rhetorical question. And then from the standpoint of the global elite, if your objective was to control the global economy, would that be easier with hundreds of thousands of small and mid-sized, or millions of small and mid-sized businesses? Or would it be easier if all of the goods and services were provided, the means of production were consolidated into 100 or 200 of these mega corporations? So obviously these mega corporations, easier to control the amount or control the means of production. And therefore, I believe if the global elite are trying to take us to this socialist utopia, they're trying to control the production of goods and services. Therefore, they will also try to wipe out small and mid-sized businesses. At least if you said, George, how would you do it if you were the global elite? That's how I'd do it. And I don't really know of any other way to get from A to B. But let's go into this article from Lynn Alden, my partner in Rebel Capitalist Pro. I'm sure everyone's a huge fan of Lynn. If you're not, you should be. And in this article, this is the most recent one that I saw on her blog post. She goes into why prices are so important. And I talk about this all the time in my whiteboard videos, that price signals and price discovery. And this is one of the reasons why Russia, communist Russia, collapsed, because they just could not allocate scarce resources with alternative uses efficiently, because they didn't have the price signal telling them where the stuff should go, or how much of XYZ you should mine, or how much of ABC you should produce. This is all something that prices tell us. And the free market is very, very, very good at giving us the price signals we need to allocate scarce resources efficiently, and therefore be far more productive in producing goods and services, and that makes society as a whole richer. So she gives some fantastic examples that I'd like to go through here quickly. So first, a broken pipeline. Suppose 300 miles away, pipeline breaks, gas stops being supplied to large portions of the U.S. state. Gas at stations quickly run out. A few stations have some fuel left over, double the price. Some people had gasoline stored up. Then the prices go up. They're accused of price gouging, saying you can buy their gasoline from them at 3 times what it normally costs. Suddenly, millions of Americans have a price signal about gasoline. See, right off the bat, you instantly, intuitively know why prices are so important. So let me reiterate, suddenly millions of people have a signal about gasoline, whether they have any idea about what happened to the pipeline. Those who don't need to drive won't. Uber prices spike. Some people have stronger reason to drive and are willing to pay 2, 3, 4 times more for the normal gas price. As of a couple days ago, in this example, some enterprising individuals or companies from other states started to buy gasoline and driving it to the states to sell that gas at a big markup. If you're a resident of the gasoline-starved state, you can pay 2, 3, 4 times price, and you can still get it. On surface, this looks bad. Obviously, we have to get that pipeline fixed as fast as possible. But other than that, what can we do to make consumers happy in the meantime? One option is to blame the price gougers and try to stop prices from increasing, i.e., price controls. We can pass a law and say nobody can sell gas for higher than the day it was before the pipeline broke. However, that's a bad option because that just suppresses the price signal. Millions of people won't, or millions of people who don't know other each other are currently trying to fix the problem in various ways to complement each other thanks to that high level of price. The pipeline company is trying to fix the broken pipeline. They can start making money again. People who don't need much gasoline are using less. And I would also include the gas company has an even increased incentive to fix the pipeline because now gas prices are so high, they get that pipeline going. That brings down supply, sure, but in the interim, they're making even more profit. People who don't need gas as much are using less. So this is something huge that most people don't think about. If prices go up, that reduces the consumption of that scarce resource, of the good or service, right? So if you have a shortage of something, price skyrockets, people use it less. This helps bring more supply online, and it helps prices from just spiraling out of control indefinitely. So, and again, you got to think this through. It just seems normal and intuitive for us growing up in the United States. But just think about this from a standpoint if we didn't have prices. What would happen? See, in this example, if there was just one price, let's say a gallon of gasoline was $1, regardless of what happened with the pipeline, it's just because that's what was set by the government, right? Would we see any decrease in level of consumption? No. Other than maybe it might take you forever to get gas because you see the supply of gas go down because of the pipeline. But then you wouldn't have people bringing in their gas to help subdue the price, which he's going to get into here in a moment. But you see how there's two ways of tackling that. But it just becomes obvious that if you have this signal that's an instant signal, it happens in real time, that this is going to bring people together to try to solve that problem much more efficiently than if you just have one set price and people are kind of having to wonder at what's happening. Why are there long lines at these gas stations? What's going on? Is it supply? Is it greedy gas station owners that want me to suffer? What's going when price really gives you all of the data you need to know as efficiently as we possibly can in an imperfect world with imperfect human beings. So then she goes on to say people who do need gas are paying 2 to 3 times much. People who have gas stored up themselves elsewhere are bringing their gasoline to market in the state to meet the needs of those who need it. And again, if the prices weren't going up, they wouldn't have that incentive to bring the gas from where it's stored up to the marketplace because they're not making a profit on it. And the higher the prices go, the more incentive there is for people from broader area to bring in their supplies. It's like a big ant colony working together through very rudimentary signals, or like white blood cells attacking an intruder based on ancient response mechanisms. So then she goes on to use an example of Europe and what we're seeing right now with natural gas. She says, after I wrote that section, Europe provided a similar real world example. Due to the combination of problems, Europe is in the midst of a massive natural gas shortage and extreme price spike. It's much bigger problem than a single pipeline for the US or for a few states. Many European manufacturers have had to shut down operations because power prices are so high. If the situation gets bad enough, areas of Europe could literally run out of natural gas in the winter, causing severe power outages and death from lack of heating during cold nights. While price signals are helping to soften the blow, Europe's nat gas prices, as of a few days ago, are 14 times higher than US nat gas prices and 70 times higher than Asian nat gas prices. Asia is having a shortage and price spike too, but it's not as severe as Europe at the moment. So according to Bloomberg, US liquefied nat gas export terminals are operating at max capacity. Why? Because all these people, producers in the United States, are seeing the price in Europe and they're saying, whoa, I'm going to send my product over there and get the highest price possible. Therefore, this gives them the supply they need. It brings down price a bit and it buys them time to come up with a solution and it quite literally saves lives. So how would this work if there were a centralized price for natural gas? Let's just say that it was, again, $1 for whatever the unit of measurement is, and it would go up 14 times. So it would go up to $14, but without the price signals in a centrally controlled economy, global economy, then it would just be set at $1. So how would they solve this problem? Well, the only way that you could solve it as far as bringing in production from other countries where they didn't have the shortage is to demand that the US producers sell their supply to Europe. Why would they do that if it's still a dollar? The only way they would is if they were commanded to do it. In other words, they didn't have a choice. So now is where you start to see the dilemma. So now pretend you're a central planner. Pretend you're Klaus and you don't like free market capitalism and you want the public-private partnership. You think the global elite should control the economy. How do you solve this problem? Because, listen, Klaus and the cronies, Bigglesworth, they're not stupid. I believe Klaus has his PhD in engineering and in economics. Now, just because you have a PhD in economics, it means you're smart, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily understand economics. I had I was able to have dinner the other night with someone who actually has a PhD in economics, and it was a very pleasant time. I enjoyed the conversation, but this person told me flat out that the things I talk about on my videos, especially pertaining to how money or dollars are actually created, they never went over that while this person was getting their PhD, while they were studying to get their PhD in economics. Not even once. Not even once. So this person that I was speaking to, they had a decent understanding. I'm definitely not like talking to Jeff Snyder or something like that, but they had a pretty good understanding as to how money was created. But they had to learn that all on their own, outside of getting a PhD. So if this person just had relied on their education, they would be the first person to admit that they would probably know very little about economics in the real world. They know a lot about charts and graphs and formulas and statistics and supply curves and all of this stuff that you know what was funny is as I was having this conversation with this person, I was trying to think about what type of grade I would get. if I took an economics test in college, I guarantee I'd get an F. I wouldn't know anything. I literally wouldn't know anything they were talking about. I'd be completely clueless, lost. But who has a better understanding of economics in the real world? Me or the professor that would be giving the test? But anyway, I digress. So Klaus is a smart guy, and he's definitely smart enough to know his dilemma, that how do you get around price signals here? So I think what they do is they try to, and uh, I have no hard evidence that this is what they'll be doing, but to me, it makes sense. I think it's a hypothesis we should definitely contemplate. So we obviously know they're big fans of artificial intelligence, and they're moving towards a central bank digital currency. Well, we just went over in our last video on how that would give them access, the central planners, the central banks, access to every single transaction that was occurring in real time in the real economy. So the artificial intelligence could give them a signal that, hey, something's wrong with the supply in Europe. Therefore, we need supply from the United States and from Asia. So this is the artificial intelligence telling them what the price signals would otherwise tell them. So you could say that, oh, George, fantastic. We've got we've solved the problem. So now we don't need price controls. Now, to Klaus's point, we can move towards this socialist utopia. Yeah, that's correct. But remember what else that entails. Now you know where the gas should go, but how do you get the gas to where it should go without using coercion? You can't. You can't. That's the magic of free market capitalism. It's voluntary. It's not Klaus putting a gun to the producers' heads and saying, "Hey, we command you to take your natural gas and sell it to Europe, because the artificial intelligence tells us that that's what you should be doing." And the artificial intelligence is God, for lack of a better term. I think that's how they would see it. And this is what we should be doing. So we cannot question the artificial intelligence. And if you question the artificial intelligence, then just like the story I did earlier, when the 48% of Democrats want to fine and or imprison people who question the medicines. Same thing. If you question the artificial intelligence, then you are dangerous to society. And therefore you should be fined and or imprisoned. And this is the way that the fascists saw the private sector. They saw that if the private sector pursued its own self-interest, that was unconscionable. They could not allow that to happen. Every single thing that was done, whether private individuals or entities owned the means of production or not, was irrelevant. Everything had to be done for the benefit of the state. And I think that in the future, they'll say the exact same thing in a different way. Obviously, they have to spin it. There's a little PR negotiating there. But this is the objective. That everything has to be done. All of our priorities have to revolve around what is best for, now not the state, but the opinions of the global elite. We see how they're conditioning everyone right now, either intentionally or unintentionally, to not question their view, right? It's the science. And there is no scientific process. It's just whatever the global elite decide is truth, that is the truth. And I think we'll see the exact same thing with climate change. And you can say it's real, I'm not here to even debate that. It's just the global elite don't care about the air. I can promise you that. But they will use this as a conduit. They will use this as a Trojan horse to say that this is the science. This is the truth. Therefore, if you oppose the truth, then you are propagating disinformation or misinformation. And you need to be punished accordingly because you are dangerous to society. So I know we're kind of in the nitty gritty now. Let's back up again and look at this from the standpoint of a central planner, that you're looking at price control. This is a problem. AI can potentially fix that problem. But in your solution is implicit that we as a society experience more and more and more coercion. And if you're the global elite, how do you deploy that coercion? How do you make that how do you make society as receptive to that coercion as possible? Conditioning. Conditioning. And getting them to obey, which is exactly what you see right here. I just tweeted about it. You got this tennis guy that gets booted from Australia, and now he's booted from the French Open. And yet he just had the cerveza sickness. There is absolutely no health risk that this person poses above and beyond the health risk that would that a normal player would pose. Therefore, it's clearly not about health. It's about obedience. So why is it that they're trying to get everyone to obey? Why is it that they are trying to position themselves as having a monopoly on truth or a monopoly on science? Again, I think it has a lot to do with their overall objective in taking the global economy to this socialist utopia and them getting around the need for price signals by implementing a central bank digital currency, implementing artificial intelligence on top of the data that they are collecting as a result of that central bank digital currency, and then using coercion to get the individuals in society to do what they are told. In the case of natural gas, using that as an example, to get those producers in the United States to sell their natural gas to the people in Europe, even though the price has not changed. And again, the main takeaway here is this is what is so incredible about free market capitalism, is you achieve these objectives voluntarily. Without free market capitalism, the only way you can achieve these objectives is with a gun pointed to your head. That's what it boils down to. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Always stand up for freedom, liberty, free market capitalism. We'll see you on the next video.